Hello?
Hi,
And who is just joining us?
this is Becky Freed.
Hi, Becky.
Mindy?
Yes, this is Mindy.
Yep, this is Sharon Knorr.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. So as I am looking, and I have 359 on my computer, as I'm looking at who has joined us via computer, I see we have Joe Steffen, myself, Mark Mueller, Sharon Knorr, Amy Lucy, and on the phone, I have Prairie Central I see on the phone, and Sharon Knorr on the phone, and Amy Lucy. So you're both on the phone and the computer. Everyone can hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. I'm having problems accessing it online. I clicked on the link in your email. Am I doing something else wrong?
I think, let me look. The only thing I think we need to do is click on the link. I'm just reading my directions to make sure I'm correct.
Yeah, all I did was click on the link.
Okay,
Click
I'll
on the
try
link
it
and then it says join it. Yes, yep. So
Yeah, I just couldn't get sound that way, so that's why I called in as well.
Sure. I had a hard time, and I had to call in on my cell phone as well because when I plugged my earphones into my computer, I wasn't getting my mic, and so then I was like, well, nobody can hear me. That's not going to be good. So I'm using my cell phone and my computer as well. Can everyone see the computer screen? I have pulled up the listserv that says State FFA Degree and American FFA Degree Webinar Reminder. Everyone
Diana watching.
See that? Hi, Diana. If you can see that screen, there are two ways to communicate with me. Obviously, ask me a question at any time. Don't hesitate to stop me. We are being recorded, so your questions will be recorded. My responses will be recorded. We did this yesterday afternoon, and as soon as we were done, John took the recording and downloaded it to YouTube, and then we were able to, we have a link for that. And so after this week's webinars, because I'll do one tomorrow morning and I'll do one midday on Friday, after we have these 4 webinars done, we will post them on, I'll just send out the link to everybody and they can pick up one and listen to it if they want to. But then those will be, everybody can have access to those. 2 ways to communicate with me: either interrupt me and ask me a question at any time, know you're being recorded, or there is a little word bubble up there where I'm hovering over right now, if you can see it, wherever your word bubble is. You click on that and you would send me a message that says start chatting, and then I will respond to you, and I will probably click all attendees when I respond so that everybody sees the answer. I'll say the question out loud and then I'll try to type the answer. So I will keep an eye on that word bubble as we go along, and then I will also, if you have questions that I cannot answer, or this is, oh man, that FFA board needs to talk about that, if it's a question like that, then I will write those questions down. So I will ask that you give me a moment to make sure I get, or I'll type the question up in a Word document that I'm keeping. So I ask that you give me a moment to get questions all written down as well. But if there are no questions to start with, then I will go ahead and get us started. Any questions before we get going? Okay, so I pulled up the listserv so everybody could see how do we get to the state degree application. And you can either type in the words theaet.com or you can click here. Either one of these 2 links will take you there. I log in as teacher, and you're going to as well because you're going to look at your students. And you basically continue to go through your login, and then you're going to click on reports over here. Under reports, there's FFA awards, degree, application manager, and that is where I have 2 state degrees, 2 sample state degree applications here started. The first one that's dated December 8th is actually one that is an AET generated application from a student who, or a practice student who would have all AET records already kept. Now, understanding that that's not going to be our students this year. Our students this year are going to have maybe a 1 year of AET books, but all the other books will be easy records or paper copy. And so that is why we have the December 12th application that I have open that I've started as well. So that is why I have two quote-unquote sample applications. Yesterday it was asked, can you have access to these sample applications? I don't know how to share those with you yet, but I can promise you there's nothing in them that would be of value to you, because they are completely made up, and you'll see how it works, that having your own students' information is going to be much more valuable to you than having my sample application. But I'm going to open up the AET-generated application. So again, the one on December 8th is an application that would be generated completely from AET record books. And I'm going to go through the instructions relatively quickly because I, one, know you all can read, and two, I don't want to, waste your time, but I want to make sure that you do understand on the instructions page there is a blue circle with a triangle in it. If you click on that, there is a video that explains how to get started on the application and all the do's and don'ts and knows what to know about the application. Couple things you do want to know is that the application is automatically saved, and when that little blue, the old floppy disk icon pops up, it's telling you it just saved. I do want to say that when you hit the tab button, that's what takes you from next cell to the next cell, so the tab button is very useful. You do want to make sure that when you begin on the basic setup page, you put your beginning and ending dates for the time period that you're doing your record books. A question was asked yesterday, well, what happens if my student is keeping their books, on AET and it's ongoing, and does it continue to change the information in the application? It does not, because you are going to set the ending date for the application for December 31st of 2016. So if you have a student who's working on their AET book now, today, after January 1, if you put the ending date on your application, which the ending date is December 31st, 2016, it will not continue to change the information on the application. So you are fine with that. The other thing I want to make sure that I share with you is you'll start with your cover page first and then go to your basic setup page, and you'll see this blue box over on the left-hand side of your computer screen. You're just going to go in order of completing those tasks, and many of the pages towards the end, like assets, liability, net worth, those will pre-populate as you put in the other information about your income and expenses and what you've done with your books. We do not put in decimal points. Please do not put in decimal points and only use whole numbers. Sometimes I know when even if you want to just type in $100, many times we'll put in 100 decimal point or period 00. Do not do that. There are no decimal points. Please do not use decimal points. Very helpful piece in this, if you are familiar at all with the American FFA degree application, our state degree application is very similar to that. And this green question mark in a circle, if you hover over that, it will give you helpful tips, and it will give you examples, and it will give you information within the application, and I find that to be very helpful. There is a checklist. If you look on the blue box right above the print application, there's a checklist. That checklist, all the items on there have to say met or yes for the student to qualify. If they do not, when you go to print application, it will not print the application without saying the words draft. So whatever it's telling you is not met or you're missing or isn't in place, you go back in your application, you fix that, or you make sure you add that, and then once they all say met and yes, then it will print the application without saying draft. Now when I show you things today, you'll only see an application that can be printed that says draft, because I do not have an Illinois FFA member's number on my application. And so mine will always say that I'm missing that piece of information. And because I'm missing the student's ID number, it will still say draft. So that's why mine will say draft today, because I don't have that number. And the other piece that is the reason why I went to this one first, even though I know it's not what you are going to use with your students, this is where you go to click here, where I'm hovering over. It says click here to unlock the application. When you click here, then you are unlocking the application, and now you can enter in all of your easy records, paper records data into this application. If you don't click here, you won't be able to enter in that data. If you have a student who has 1 year's worth of books in AET and 1 year's worth of books in easy records, you still have to click here to unlock it, and you have to input all that data, whether it be easy records or AET, into the application. The application the only way it completely feeds the application completely is if all years are in AET. And knowing that this is our first year with this application and our first year of using AET, all of you or many of you are only going to be able to use the click here. One thing that's very important is, and I put this in the directions that I sent out on that listserv message, do not go back and forth on this click here. If you go back and unclick the click here, or you click it again to lock the application, you'll lose information. You want to make sure that you click here once and then you're done with it, and then the application is open for you to put information in. Are there any questions on the instructions page or opening the application for your student to use? Okay, so now I'm going to go to the application that I clicked here and opened, and I'm going to look at my cover page. If you had a student who, as we talked about before, you were working with, had AET, all AET books, and you could click on Load from FFA or Review Award in AET, Review Profile in AET. Once you hit Load from FFA, then it would all dump the information in here. But since we are bringing our students' information over from an easy record book or a paper record book, this is where we begin to type all of our information in. So this is where I can type Mindy, and look, because my computer knows my address, I can do that. But this is where I would put your information in here, and this just types in as you go. None of the information on this front page is anything different than your previous state degree application. You put all this information in here. I think some things that are very important to point out are the first box is just all of your logistics, your name, your parents' name. If I had an ID number, it would automatically dump into there where FFA member ID number is. All of that information you type in, and then we get down to the chapter's name, and this is where you put the school and chapter advisor information and the school phone number and the school name. The next box is date of birth. This is where you need to put in the year your membership started. This is where they need to check the box that they have been a member for the past 24 months. They've paid their FFA dues. They received their Green Hand degree. They need to put the year there. They need to put the year for the chapter degree. I'm going to take that information out for right now just to show you what happens later on in our checklist process. Down here at the bottom box is where you put all the GPA information. This is where you put the number of hours they were in high school agriculture class. This is where you put if they're going to college, or they're going to college and their major. This is where you put if they had any military duty, world experiences in agriculture. All of the information on this on this cover page is information that was on the previous state FFA degree application. Are there any questions about the cover page? Okay, now I'm going to the basic setup page, and in the basic setup page, the first thing you're going to want to do is type in the beginning date, the beginning date for when the student's record started. Mine says 8/11/2014, and we are going to change that to 9/1/2014. And I updated that information. The next thing that we want to put in is what type of SAE does your student have. As you can see right now, I have selected placement, and you can see over here in the blue box, these are the pages that are included in a placement state FFA degree application. Everybody can see those pages. You have additional requirements, SAE, placement, and exploratory, assets, liabilities, net worth, earned and productively invested, activities, skills, competencies, community service, checklist, print application. Now I'm going to take it out of placement, and I'm going to check entrepreneur. And now you're going to see I have different pages for my entrepreneur book. And you can see SAE entrepreneur details. You can see the income and expense statement. You see that there's many more pages, not many more, but a few more pages, especially when we're talking inventory and non-current inventory, to that page. What I'm going to do for our purposes so that we can look at a little bit of everything is check both boxes for us. So it is important to know that when you're looking at a state degree application from this application process, a placement student's book is not going to look or application is not going to look the same as an entrepreneur student's application, which is really no different than previous years, except the fact that there are the number of pages. Instead of having blank pages in an application for a placement student, there won't be those pages. Same way with an entrepreneur. Instead of having a blank page, a potential blank page for 3 and 4 for the placement kid, an entrepreneur wouldn't have those blank pages, they just wouldn't have them. So if you've checked both, then you'll have both. So the first thing as we go in to put in our current assets, this is information that comes from, if we're looking at our Easy Records, this is information that comes from our white pages of the Easy Record book, and this is coming from page 6 in the Easy Record book. You're going to put the cash on hand, checking and savings from the very beginning of the record book, and then over here you're going to put the value of the ending date of the record book. So you're going to have to look at those ending and beginning years and put that information there. You'll have to then plug in the cash value of bonds, stocks, life insurance, ending value as well, notes, and account receivable. All that information, again, is found in the white pages of your Easy Records, and you're just going to transfer those numbers into the application here. The beginning values then all have to be entered in for inventory and investment. Ending values will come from the ending inventory that's found later on in the application. If you look and see over here where you have your ending current inventory and your ending non-current inventory, those numbers will then be plugged in later. So you don't have to plug those numbers in now. Those will come from the actual application itself. Your liabilities, again, these are found in the financial statement, the white pages of the Easy Record book. You'll put that information there, the beginning dates and the ending value dates. And then the last box, box number 5, this is new to Illinois, and this is something I do want to point out. In the old state degree application, this was later on in the record book. I think it was page 10A, if I have that reference correct. And this is where you put your source of cash gifts. You hover over the question mark, and it will tell the student, your grandparents give you $1,000 cash. You can begin your SAE program. You want a scholarship that funds your past secondary expenses in this application. These are cash gifts. Cash gifts provided by others. They're used in your SAE to support what you're doing that are reflected in the application. The next one is sources of cash from ag-related non-SAE or personal earnings that are not part of your SAE. So this is where your babysitting can come in, winning a cash award, selling a truck or a car or something that had nothing to do with your SAE. If you had turf and landscape management and you sold a mower, this is not where that would go because the mower would be related or reflected in your SAE. So that is where those pieces go. Total personal expenses and draw, this is where your taxes go. So instead of listing out your year, each year you paid taxes in the old state degree application, you total up the taxes you paid for each year and you place it here, as well as any other expenses you had. Maybe this is where you put it's a personal expense, so it's where you bought your car or you went out on a date. Any of your personal expenses you keep track of and you place in this line right here. And then educational expenses for any of those students that are freshmen in college or even students that are seniors in high school and paying, going to the local community college part-time and paying any of those expenses, this is where they would put that information there. It does not include living expenses. It does include tuition and books, and that is where you would place those pieces of information right here on this basic setup page. Does anybody have any questions about the basic setup page? I don't see any questions in the chat box, but I'm happy to answer any questions if we have any on the basic setup page. excuse me for coughing. Okay, so now we're going to move to additional requirements. This information on our state degree application, this is unique to us. So this you will not see on an American degree application. You will not see this on another state degree application. This is what AET created specifically for Illinois. So this is where you check that a student can perform 10 parliamentary procedures in parliamentary law. They can give a 6-minute speech. They can or have participated in planning and completion of chapter program activities. They have been a chapter officer, committee chairperson, or participated as a member of a chapter committee. When you check these, then these will all just automatically be generated within the application. If by chance I check one of these no, and I'm going to check the 6-minute speech no, we'll see what happens later. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. You'll also select here what area the student should be considered as a STAR, farmer, placement, ag business, research. Again, this is very similar to our state degree application. You marked that on the state degree application. The question we had yesterday was, what happens when a student comes in and they have farmer books, they have production books, and they have placement books, and they come in as a STAR farmer checked, but as the committee reviews the student's application and record books and has the interview, they decide this student is actually stronger in placement. Can you go back and check that? Yes, you can. You have to go back to the live application and check that, and then reprint the application and then submit that. So the committee can make those decisions. You still have the freedom and power to do that. You just can't check more than one box on the application at a time, which is, again, not anything that's really new. Maybe many times teachers wouldn't mark that box at the bottom, mark that X at the bottom of the application until they knew. But that is how we want to handle that here. Another piece that's unique to Illinois is that we allow students to keep track of and count towards receiving their degree entrepreneurship SAE hours. So I'm going to type 200 hours in there and remind you that for the American FFA degree, they do not recognize entrepreneurship hours. There is no such thing for the American FFA degree of unpaid entrepreneur hours. The hours you work makes the money you make, and so you cannot use entrepreneurship hours to earn the American FFA degree, but we do allow it for the state FFA degree. So that is where you would put those total of those hours from your journal. I call it journal. I shouldn't call it journal. It's called journal in our in AET, where you have record of experience for an entrepreneurship student. So record of experience is 5A and 6A. You take the total hours from those record of experiences, and that's where you put those entrepreneurship hours once they are totaled up. And that is for each year. So it's each year's worth of entrepreneurship hours that can be placed there. Any questions about that? The next box is did you file and pay a tax return? If yes, please enter the years you filed. If no, explain why. And that's what I've said is no, my parents, I typed this quickly yesterday. No, my parents paid, I should have the word paid my taxes in the amount of $100 recorded as a gift in the basic setup page. Let me go back and make sure I put basic setup that I actually paid. Yep, I have personal draw, $100. My parents paid that. So that is the additional requirements page. Does anybody have any questions about that page? Everybody still can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're all silent. I get a little worried. So, okay. Yeah. So the next thing we want to do is we want to jump to the next page in line is the placement and exploratory. So this is what a student's placement page will look like. And as you can see, I have already entered some information in for 2014 and 2016. But in 2015, I didn't work for anybody else. I maybe spent more time on my entrepreneurship side of my project. But if I wanted to add an entry for 2015, I click on the year 2015, and I worked for employer was Stoughton Burroughs. And my responsibilities, I said feed pigs. Oh, I can't type correctly. feed pigs, maintain farms, and so, and then my total of unpaid hours, I have 0 unpaid hours, but I have 100 paid hours. I earned $1,000, and I had 0 expenses. And I click Add, and then as you can see, that added what I did for Stoutenboro Farms for that year. I think some of the things that are important about this that's different than our previous state degree application is obviously you have to pick a pathway in which the student's SAE would fall. You put your employer or the project's name that they're working for. And then the question came up yesterday, how much do I put in the job title, responsibilities, and description, project description? My response to that is, if that is something you think that the FFA board should give a recommendation for, we can. And I am not opposed to that. I guess my response is I would be as descriptive and add as much information there as possible, because the more information you have there, the more information the committee can use to draw from to ask questions just by looking at the application. Even though they'll have the record books, it makes your application, in my opinion, more competitive and a better put together application if you put more description there. But as you can see down in 2016, I didn't put any description there. Is there going to be a penalty for that? Not at all. But I think that, so if we want to in the future, tell you how many characters you can use in that space, we can. But at this point, it's kind of open season in that realm. But my personal opinion is the more description you add there, the more competitive your project is, and then better you'll do when it comes to competing for your state degree. Does anybody have any questions about this page? Check in chat box. It says no, so I'm going to move on to SAE Entrepreneurship. So here is our entrepreneurship page. This is where a student puts in, and you can see some of the information that I have typed in. I have test entrepreneur SAE, but I also put a beef farm where I had 2 Hereford steers. Anytime you want to add something to it, I'm going to type plant systems, project name, Dunselmeyer Farms, size and scope 20 acres. And on the description, I can, in my 20 acres, I can say 20 acres of corn yielded, oh boy, typing is just not my job. What I like is it does tell me when I misspell things. It's embarrassing that my typing is so bad. And then I'm going to hit add, and you can see that it added that to it. And so a lot of times teachers are going to say, well, there's no place for me to tell you how much I yielded for my corn or what my project did. The description allows you to type in any and all information you want to about your 20 acres of corn or your 2 head of now as you see with the beef farm we have in 2016, I had 2 Hereford steers. You can put as much or as little description there as possible, but to me, again, more description you give, the greater knowledge the committee has of your project, and that's just supporting documentation for you to beef up, the information for the interview. So that's the entrepreneurship page. Remember, if I was just doing placement, I wouldn't have this page, and if I was doing entrepreneurship, I wouldn't have the placement page. So don't feel bad if your student doesn't have those. So then we get into our closing inventory, beginning inventory, basically our income and expense summary. This is, if you remember from the old state degree application, this is page 8A and 8B. This is where that information goes. None of the information on here is anything new or different than a previous state degree application, but the question is where from the Easy Records does this information come from? And when you're looking at Easy Records, this is where cash and non-cash expenses, so that's 11A from our old Easy Records friend, and 12A, and then inventory is on 13A, and 14A is your labor and management earnings. So all of those pages, 11A through 14A, is where the information that goes on this page would come from, as well as receipts from sales, which would also be 9A. I apologize for that. So as that information comes in here, the only thing I clearly want to point out is you can see, and I'm going to take this out, where I have in 1F, I have value of production transferred from other enterprise, transferred to non-current, bartered, or labor exchanged. I have $200 there. I'm going to take that out. And when I did, I also need to come down here and take out my $200 there, okay? Because if I say that I worked for the feed for my 2 Hereford steers, if I worked for it and it's labor exchanged, and then the feed bill was $200, then I put it there, and then I have to go down to 2D and put in where my labor exchange that contributed to, it was for my feed, and I put it there. So those 2 items, as you can see, it was a wash, but that's where you put, so no student can ever say, I'm raising animals and I don't have any feed expenses. That's not possible. If you don't have feed expenses is because your parents paid for it because you worked for them, then you need to make sure that they put it in the labor exchanged. I worked and got this much value, and then that value needs to equal what you put in for what it was given to you. So that's your feed expense. It's important to have that there. The other thing the other item that can be transferred, and I know these amounts are very not realistic, but I just want to make sure I make it clear how we do this. Let's say you have that heifer who becomes, let me take this out really quick, who becomes the cow, and you're saying she increased in value. Then she becomes a non-current inventory for you, and as she increased in value, you can put her value increase. I'm saying that she's transferred from my operations. I put her value increase there. So you can see I transferred into other enterprise or transferred to non-current, which is what I did. I put her in non-current now. Oh, I've got to increase it. Sorry. I said she increased. I did. Okay. So I put that there. So then she transferred into that. That is how we handle that piece. Now let's see if I didn't put that information there. It would say right down here, it says, check if non-cash transactions are balanced, and it tells me no. If it tells me no there, then when I go to the checklist, it's going to tell me I have an error there. Non-cash income and expense is balanced each year in the income expense report. It says error. So I click back there, and I see, oh, I have a problem. And my problem. So then I hover over my question, and my question tells me where my problem is. And so then I go back up here, and I fix it. And now I'm fixed. Again, my values are small, so it's easy for me to remember where I type things in. But this is your income and expense summary. Again, the question marks, you'll hover over them. They'll give you exactly what that information is and answer your questions. But this is that page. Are there any questions about this page? Okay, moving to the next page. This is where you'll put in your harvested and growing crops, your feed, seed, fertilizer, chemical expenses, merchandise crops, raised market animals. This is pages from the old state degree application 6 and 7, and this is where all of that information is. So these pages should not look any different than a previous page, and they work just like the pages that I showed you before, where I'm going to type in my tractor. I can type right, tractor, I'm going to type in that it cost me, and depreciation claimed. Again, these numbers are not accurate, but then I hit add, and the information's there. Now, because you know that's not accurate information, that I don't want to keep that, I can just delete that, ask me if that's okay, and I say yes. Again, these pages are just like 6 and 7 from the old state degree application. If you have questions, don't hesitate to stop. Now we're clicking on to assets. All of these numbers on this page are pre-populated from everything you've put in the application already. So there is nothing on this page that you could actually go in and type. It's all from this previous page. Same way with liabilities. Same way with net worth. Now further down here on the net worth page, it's going to tell me you're not balanced. Your ending value isn't balanced. So I hover over the question and I'm saying, well, what does that mean? It means that a comparison of my value, it says my total assets, so my value on my assets page should equal my total liabilities plus the ending equity. Well, what happens when I'm not balanced? Why am I not balanced? The difference, meaning if it's in parentheses, it means it's a negative value. It says if you have a negative value, you've either understated your assets or overstated your liabilities. This is, and I'm sure many of you will remember this, this is line 29 and 28 on the old state degree application, and those should have matched, should have equaled one another, but we allowed there to be a difference there. We said that on the old degree application, we said that the value of line 28 couldn't be less than the value of line 29. But in our new state degree application, those numbers have to match exactly. So when it tells me I'm not balanced and it tells me I have understated assets or overstated liabilities, I need to go back and check my assets and look and see where I maybe have dollars that I did not account for. Does investment of merchandise? Let's go check that. Investment of merchandise. Looking at my investment of merchandise page. Does I have my non-GMO soybeans? I still have those. Income and expense. I have my cow calculated. Now I'm going to go back to my basic setup, and that's all the same. I didn't add any value there. Nope, I did not add any value there. So I need to go back to my basic setup page and see where I may have changed some values. Okay. My difference, understated assets, overstated income. There we go. I think that's it. And where have I overstated? It's at $900. Now I have to find that. Let's see. Transfer and operations is fine because I transferred that. I had to have changed something. I'm not sure. Remember what I changed. I'm going to dig into that. I'm going to come back to that. We'll come back to that and look at that page because that is going to be a question we're going to have to answer.
Mindy,
I just don't remember what I've changed. Yes.
I think when you added like $1,000 to the placement, you added one in like 2015 that wasn't originally there.
Ah, thank you. That
You're
could
welcome.
be. Yeah, that could be. We'll change
and
that.
And then you put that other 100 back in.
Yeah, let's go back to That has to be because I didn't account for that later on. You're right. When I go back and look at this page, your earned and productively invested, and this is where it tells you that your student met and qualified for their state FFA degree. It pulls all the numbers from the page. Again, this is not a page that you can type anything on. All these numbers are populated. But basically you earn the state FFA degree by productively investing $1,000 and earning over $1,500. Or you productively invest $1,000 and put in at least 750 hours. And again, this hours piece is where that 200 hours that I put back here on the additional requirements page, that's where those 200 hours go. So if I change that to 500 hours on the productively earned and invested, you'll see that did not update. Oh, that is not update. Oh, it did update. I see. It updated here. Okay. It updated right down here. So if you look down here, it does say that I've met that now, where before it was saying unmet. My total unpaid must be from my placement. Go back and check my placement. Unpaid. Yes, I have 200 in unpaid for placement. There we go. Okay. So I'll go back to the additional requirements. I'll change that back to 200, and then you can see productively earned and invested down here. Because I didn't hit 750, it says not met. But I still qualified for my degree with option 1. So you have to do option 1 or option 2. If you hit both, that's great, but you only have to hit one of the two. Activities page. This page is also unique to our state degree application. We do not, the American FFA degree does not require this. One thing I want to point out, when I add an activity, I'm going to add an activity for 2015, and I'm just going to put in LTS, and then I'm going to say that it was area, district, or regionals, and I'm going to hit add. You can see that it just puts LTS. So I'm encouraging everybody, this is not a requirement, but for me and wanting my students' page to print in order and show a chronological order of the things they attended, I encourage you to put the year 2015 in front of the activity they attend, because I feel like that makes that, again, it prints better and it looks better for the student when they are completing their project, and also it's judging purposes. I can follow along or read up the scale and see the things they've attended and the years that they've attended them. You check the year over here, but that year does not indicate when the list is produced. And so I want to encourage everybody to list the year in that piece. Not a requirement. Nobody's going to get disqualified if you don't. I just think it's better for the application purpose, and I think it's better for judging purposes as well. All FFA activities is there. Skills, competencies, and knowledge. This is also unique to our application. You won't find this in the American degree application. You won't find this in other state degree applications necessarily. In our previous state degree application, this page, a student had to type in what their performance indicator was or what the skill was, and then over on this side they typed in the competencies and knowledge. Now you have choices for what your skill is, and there are hundreds of choices for a student to be able to select one from. Safely manage biological materials, chemicals, and waste. That's the one I used in the laboratory. That's the one I picked. It's just a random one. And then the student types in over here what competency and knowledge they have about that. And again, you have the opportunity to fill up the box, which I've done in this piece up here. Basically filled up the box just for our purposes so you can see what it looks like when it does print. Community service. Community service, it is a requirement of 25 hours with at least 2 different activities. Question came up yesterday. When the student works for the church or the Lions Club Blood Drive, and they work for the Lions Club Blood Drive in 2014, 2015, and 2016, and they have 25 hours working for the Lions Club Blood Drive, do all 25 hours go to qualifying the number of hours? Yes, they do, but that is considered the same activity. So you have to have another activity in there that gives you, that is at least 1 hour or more, that helps you qualify for this community service activity. And these are just like everything else. You enter in your group and organization. And I added helping at the women's shelter, and you could see my hours increased and my number of activities increased. It's very easy. It's very straightforward. So then I can go to my checklist. Now my checklist, oh my, this looks terrible. I'm missing my FFA number, which I already told you I would be. As you know, on the cover page, I did not put in my phone number, address, email address, school, advisor email, my high school graduation year, and obviously I didn't put in my years offered in ag education. So if those things are not filled out from the cover page, it will say missing here. And so I go and I click on it, and it'll take me back here, and I can put in my phone number, and then I can go back to the checklist, and now it's not telling me my phone number is missing. It takes me back. Oh, wait, I need to put in my email address. And now I put in all of my address, and now I'm going to go to the checklist, and I'm no longer missing those pieces. So that's how that works. I think it's very helpful. It helps you know what might be missing from the application. All the things that say missing are things that you can easily go in and fix. Candidate has been an active FFA member for 24 months. Remember, you check that, but now it says candidate has a green hand and chapter and green hand degree, and it says error. Well, let's see why. Oh, because I didn't put my year in. If you remember in the beginning, we took that year off, so I could show you what happens. Now we hit checklist, and it says met. So I feel like this document is very good. It's very helpful in that sense. My balance sheet, is this where I have, yep, this is where I'm not balanced. I'm going to go back to my placement. I'm going to, I think it's the one I added, I believe. Okay, set up. I think I had $100 there. I think I had. And I have a checklist. And now it's fine. It does not say error, so I met there. So you can see how those things happen. On the 6-minute speech, I click on 6-minute speech. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to check that. I know how to talk. There we go. Checklist. Now it says met. Skills and competencies, you saw that I did not complete that. And then student has done 5 activities above the chapter level. Well, I only have 4 in there right now. So that is your checklist. That is what it looks like. Now the advisor checklist that you're used to completing at the end of the application, you won't be able to find that until you hit print application. Now remember, my application is going to say draft, draft, draft because I don't have a member ID number, and obviously I'm still missing some things. But this is what the state degree application will now look like. Here is my cover page where all of my signatures are. Same signatures are required as in the past. Guidance counselor signature and all the other signatures that we've asked for before. This is what the cover page will look like. All the pieces of the cover page drop to here. This is our basic setup page. Here is that additional requirements page. Again, this is just unique to the Illinois FFA degree. And then you begin to see how all the boxes that we filled out before, what they look like. And you can see here the description. You could put a lot of information in that description and be very, in your application is more full and looks more complete. I'm not trying to tell you ways to be more competitive, but I think it's just smart to put as much description as you can there and make your application, like I said, not only more competitive, but carry the information there that the committee needs to know about you or student's project. Here's the entrepreneur page. This is similar to page 6 and 7 from the old state degree. This is similar information there. This is your income and expense summary. This is what this will look like. Very similar to what it looks like in the actual application. I'm going to continue to scroll down, hoping not to make anyone car sick by doing that. Scrolling through, and then it says met. I know that my student has qualified for their state degree. And then I get into the leadership activities. And you can see now what I'm talking about by having the students enter this information in. By putting 2014, then it lists, I think it looks better if the years out in front and it lists it, and then the student has that information in there. Skills and competencies, the one next. You can see what it looks like when you fill up the box, and you do that for all 10, and you will fill up your page, and I think that has a good look to it as well. In community service, it actually separates the boxes out and has 2015, 2014, 2016. That might be something we ask for future years. It's not something we asked for specifically this year when they were working on our state degree application. I think that's something the board will want to discuss. But for right now, I just encourage everybody to put the year in front of the leadership activity. This is the checklist we talked about. Once all those missing things are in there, those won't list anymore. These two down at the bottom will need to say met. And when those all say met, then your application will no longer have the words draft on them. And then here is the final checklist. This is the checklist that you guys are used to doing. In previous years from a state application, this was 3 pages long. We have shortened that because so many of the things in the application now are populated to say missing or not met if they're not there. And so you don't have to go back and do a manual check because the application wouldn't print without saying draft if they weren't met. So we tried to make the application have as much power and accountability as we possibly could. And that not only shortens your checklist, but helps you make sure you have everything correct before you print that with your student. So the manual checks on this checklist, you do still have to attach a transcript. The only time you have to attach any other additional information is if you have to clarify the ag relevance of your student's SAE. And that will happen at the section level. If somebody doesn't think it's ag enough related, they'll ask you to verify why it's ag related. You type that up and you attach it to the document. If we get it at the state degree review day committee, and they don't feel like it has enough ag relevance, or they're questioning its ag relevance, I will then contact that teacher or you and let you know that we need to have a statement verifying its ag relevance. You send that to us. We attach it to the application. But the only other thing, so that is only if you're asked to attach that. The only thing you have to attach is the transcript, and that's nothing new. The transcript information is there in the first box. You as the teacher at the chapter level will check yes. At the section when it's being reviewed, it will be you check yes. And the state will check the transcript against it and check yes as well. The next thing on the transcript is you refer back to the transcript to see the number of hours they took in ag. You check yes. Section checks yes. The state checks yes. The next one, the 12 meetings or more, that cannot be found in the application itself. That has to go. You have to go back to the student's record book to see where they attended their 12 meetings. And that is recorded in the white pages in the Easy Record and on the resume in the AET, showing all the FFA activities that they attended. Number 4 on the checklist is, has a student been involved in at least 3 non-FFA related activities? This one is not on the application because it is not a constitutional requirement to earn the state FFA degree. So the question that was posed to me yesterday was, well, what if a student doesn't have 3 non-FFA related activities listed on their AET resume or in the record book? Does that disqualify them for the state FFA degree? No, it does not, because, again, it is not a constitutional requirement to earn the state FFA degree. However, this number 4 has been on our checklist for many, many, many moons. And I am assuming that it's been on there because it is a sign of a good leader and a strong leader in FFA. And this is something that the FFA board will need to discuss further if we want to add that to the Constitution or how we want to word that on the application in future years. But at this point, it is not within the application. You have to go and look at the student's resume or in their record book to see if they've done that. Number 5 is where you verify that you think the student's SAE does have an agriculture nature. You look in the book, you read the details in the SAE, you read the application, it'll tell you the ag nature. And then 6 is, do the enterprises listed relate to the income and expenses recorded? Same way with 7, are the SAE income and expenses reported in the income and expenses section representative of the SAE project? These are all items that have come from previous checklists that we kept on here. Many of them are found within the award application. You just go back and check, yes, are the non-current assets listed relevant to the student SAE projects? Again, that's number 9 on the checklist. That's found within the award application and their records. Number 10, do all pages on the award application have the same version number? And the version number is found right here. I'm going to highlight that in blue. The version numbers do need to match when you print out the application. So let's say at the section level an error was found and your section allows you to make a correction, then you make that correction and then you print out an entire new application so those version numbers match. And then the last question on the checklist is, has the advisor checked all the applicable manual checks needed and are signatures complete? So you go back up to the top, you make sure the signatures are there and that you have checked all the boxes, and there now you have successfully completed your state FFA degree. Now I know we went through things, I don't know if we went through things quickly, but I want to make sure that if you have questions, now is the time to ask. We can go back and look at any page. We can talk about any information that you are needing. No one has been chatting with me, so I don't have any chat questions yet. And I will still see who's still on the call, and I'll just ask your name and see if you've got a question. Let's see. Sharon Canor, you're still on the line. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Mark Mueller, I see you're still on the phone. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Amy Lucy, I still see you're with us. Do you have any questions?
No,
Maybe Amy. Diana Leshin?
No, I do not.
Okay, and I see Joe Steffen.
Nope, I'm good.
And Becky Freed?
We're good right now, thanks.
You bet. Does anybody, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm glad you don't have questions because that means I covered the material adequately. But happy to answer any questions you have or that may come up. And thank you so much for calling in. I learned a lot of things yesterday by doing the webinar for the first time, and I was able to make sure I added their questions in today. But you calling in and taking time to do this not only helps all of us know the application process better, but it makes us be forward thinking in addressing our questions for the future. So I really want to thank you all very much for calling in. And if there are no questions at this time, I will click off of the record button and stop recording and then hang up. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.